Hey, and welcome back to the Fuse Show. My name is David Tran, and I'm one of the hosts. I'm also a co-founder of Xfusion.io, and today I'm excited to be joined by my guest, Alexa of Moeco. She's the co-founder and COO of Moeco, an IoT platform helping customers manage and monitor their physical assets, efficiency, and the logistics throughout their supply chain. Thanks for joining us on the show.
Hi, thanks, David, for inviting me. That's a great pleasure.
So I recognize that IoT and logistics is like a relatively growing thing, but how did you personally get involved into this space?
I've been working with startups for the last 15 years, I believe. So I was always interested in how technology would influence the life of people and change them for the better. And what specifically within the technology stack, I was always interested in AI, data, and IoT is just a part of it, of how we extract the data from the physical world. So it's all about the data, right? And who owns the data now is the king. And within the application of IoT in logistics space, that's been always like, how do we track what is happening with the goods throughout the whole supply chain? And we have figured out a way to do that. I've met my co-founder 3 years ago, and the journey started.
How'd you get started with like hardware development? I think when it comes to like software startups, it's like really easy. Like you just write software and you can put it in front of people. You can create like wireframes and mockups and show it to potential customers before you can build. But when it comes to IoT, there's a lot of like actual physical components that need to be built, designed, and then shipped. So how'd you start diving into that? Like how difficult of a problem was that?
That is very difficult. I do not recommend anyone to go there because it's so difficult.
Okay.
But that's the only way to actually source the data from the physical world. So we had to especially me, I had to dive deeper into that aspect. But my co-founder, Meet Gorilovsky, who is a serial inventor, not just entrepreneur, he creates things. He has this background of creating devices, both consumer devices and industrial devices. So he knows the deal. And he originally has created the platform for IoT developers to upload the data into Silicon Valley data source and provide an access to this data source to different organizations. And as I've met him and I've learned more about the product and the technology stack, I've realized that's a cool thing to do, but there's no option to monetize it. So where's the money? So that's where I was involved in, and we started to explore around the application of the products. And we have figured out a way to pivot it towards the enterprise. Then we got into the plug and play acceleration program, and we were able just to talk to companies and discover that this is something that they would be interested in. And I think that's how we actually kicked off the product.
So when you design a chip, I imagine like once you have a blueprint, you had to like have a partner somewhere else in the world that's able to manufacture that chip. And how long does that back and forth take in terms of like submitting a blueprint, getting back a device, testing it, and iterating on that before you can even like talk to your first customer?
That's true. That takes a while, especially now with this chip shortage on the market and all that's challenges. But let's put that aside for a while and say that if you decide to create any type of device or sensors, first of all, you need a team. A team that will understand what does the process look like, and how to manage the process further on. So we do have the in-house hardware development team, and we create a blueprint in-house. And then we have a long-term relationship with different manufacturing companies who can provide this service for us. So it's definitely worth it when it comes to scaling the product to go to these big partners like Avnet, Aero Electronics, the ones that we have to outsource the manufacturing process. But I do not believe that if you don't have anyone in the team, that is manageable. At least one person who is leading the hardware strategy for the product should be there. But then we also work with our sister company called Wooden Shark, and they help us to with their outsourced team to put it all together. And in terms of the timing, the question was about the time and the cycle of the development.
Yeah.
Anything simple could be done within 2-3 weeks.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that is very much possible. But then when it comes to really complicated things that we do, it's usually a couple of months. Even with a really great team on board, that would be just a couple of months. And I believe I know how our competitors operate without having an in-house hardware team. For them, that takes years, because if they produce something, and then, as an example, there is a shortage on the market, to be able to change the device, they need another year, to reestablish all the components inside there. And because we have a hardware team there, we're quite agile with changing the components into different ones that are available. So that is very, very important if you decide to build a product, to have someone in the team.
It surprises me that someone would run an IoT or hardware company that they would do so without having a hardware expert on the team, just for that reason alone. I feel like it's, even pre-COVID, to me, it seems silly. They're like, oh, we're building something and we have no experts on this team that knows how to build the thing. And you're heavily reliant on external vendors.
Believe me, I've seen these people. I've talked to them. They are crazy, and some of them have managed to actually deliver the product.
Whoa.
Always, it's like a software. It could be outsourced. And if there is an idea and you find a partner or an agency that could create the product for you, it goes same ways with software. It's a little bit more simple, but it's not simple. But compared to hardware, it is. But it's all possible. It's just highly recommended to be very mindful about going to hardware space overall without anyone in the team.
Does everyone know about all of the manufacturers in the space, or do you have to find the appropriate manufacturer for your company?
We have the relationship that were built during the last 10 years by my co-founder of different manufacturing companies, but we're always looking for an improvement. There's always room for improvement. And besides working with the major companies, we are open to work with smaller companies, or we have been approached by a number of times by different companies. So we are always curious to learn what are the alternatives.
So when you first were getting started, when you're making that pivot from something that didn't have a paying customer to one that did have a paying customer, how did you acquire, call it, the first 10 paying customers?
That's the biggest challenge of all startups. And I believe in this case, acceleration programs really help. They provide the access to the corporate companies that are also looking for innovation. And from their side, they have also their KPIs to find startups that could help them to improve their operations or any processes that could be improved by the technology. This is something that they are also looking for. So that's a match. If you know what you're selling, if you know what you're doing, that is the last thing to do is to be able to present it in the same language as corporate people would understand. And pretty much getting into acceleration program like we did, like Plug and Place has a really great network of corporate companies. And in our case, which is a B2B sales, it really helped. And of course, it took a while. I can't say that we stepped in and the companies were ready to deploy our product. But it's a great chance to start the conversation, to at least ask the right questions and get feedback. And build on that feedback, you can always improve the product. You can get back to them saying, okay, we heard you and this is what we've changed and let's try. Unless most of the companies that are coming to acceleration programs, they would understand the process as well. They would be ready to take this challenge the same as startups.
For what type of startups would you feel like a accelerator program in their niche is a no-brainer?
So if we take the most famous acceleration programs like YC, like Plug and Play, Boost VC, which I was also participating in with my previous startup, and Techstars as an example, they are all good, but for different types of startups and companies. So if that's a big enterprise game you're playing in, I would rather go to Plug and Play and just going to their website and exploring what kind of corporate companies are engaged into the current programs would help. If there's a strong B2C aspect and investment is an issue and you kind of need to test and learn from end users, I would recommend YC or Alchemist or Techstars. And when it comes to deep tech, something that is not, let's say, out of normal. That's how I call Boost VC, is like out of normal accelerator, because they only are interested in deep tech products like augmented reality startups, like virtual reality. They do a lot on blockchain, and they would help to get to the right investors in that space and get to the right customers. And I believe just understanding what is the special about the acceleration program would really help. I forgot to mention 500 Startups, very powerful platform. I've been with them as the mentor a long time ago, and I've been with them at one of the Berkeley programs 2 years ago. They have built a really great program educating people working in investment teams how to better interact with startups. So I really wanted to approach it from the other angle, and I went to the program. It was amazing. And the beauty of 500 is that they have a great international presence. So as an example, 500 Startups in Thailand would also give an access to the market. So they have, in terms of global expansion, that's the way to go, and accept and apply to 500 Startups, I think. So it very much depends on what is the company's specialties and in terms of technology and customers and global expansion.
So if I'm hearing you right, you would recommend different types of accelerator programs for different types of companies and niches. But would you say that every startup, call it in the like software space, should go through an accelerator program of some kind?
If it's an early stage and if the company startup is struggling with getting the first clients and investors, early stage, I mean, that would really be helpful. Highly recommended to look for the match. It's like a marriage. You have to find the right one. It's not about what is good and what's wrong here. It's about who can better help me to get to these first clients and approach them from top down rather than bottom up. And the acceleration programs are really efficient in this case.
Okay. And you mentioned how you're a mentor of 500 startups. What did a mentorship relationship look like, as I guess from the mentor's perspective?
That was a very unique experience. I've moved to San Francisco. That was about 5 years ago. And because back in Ukraine, where I'm originally from, I have built the biggest sport and mindfulness community. And that was just a side project for me. But I have started my yoga teacher's career as well as a mindfulness mentorship. and I was invited by one of the 500 startups employee, who was basically my client, to come and share my experience and learn from them how to build startups and teach some of the entrepreneurs and startup founders how to survive through this path of building startups. I didn't have the startup back then, but I was just starting to work with 3D Look, which was also one of the data startups that I'm really excited about, and they're doing just great right now. But I was working with them at the very early stage, one of the first employees, and I was really eager to learn more. How does it work in Silicon Valley, right? And from the outside, I wanted to give back. That's when the interaction started, and I came, I think, once in 2 weeks to do different mindfulness exercises with one of the batches of 500 startups. That was really insightful for both parties, for me and for the batch.
It's so cool how like all these unrelated like hobbies and interests have a way of like connecting people back into the space of startups.
So true, and I believe that's one of the powerful things that can unite people and that can help. Especially for me, it was very helpful throughout my career to build relationship outside of work. And that's not only because I have the goal to, make friendship with this person, and as a result to have the deal with them. It's more about how to learn more about this person to be able to start working with them as a partner, as an investor, or as a startup, or as an employer, whatever. But human aspect is a strong one, and we all know that. And our hobbies and interests can just bring more transparency into what kind of person is working with you or is going to work with you.
I think the human component is so underrated in the world of startups. I think the number one reason startups fails, like I guess a disintegration of the team. And I think building that like foundation prior to like actually working the business together, I think is so important.
That's true. And I think that's not proven. I don't have the data about that, but that's how I feel from what I've been learning from other startup founders, is that the number one reason of failures is that people just cannot survive through that pressure that is constant.
For sure. The pressure leads to a lot of stress.
Yeah, so I believe this mindfulness aspect can really help to not only just to survive through that, but also thrive with work. At work.
Do you have a favorite set of mindfulness activities or exercises?
That's the very famous question that is in the air, and everyone's just like, "What do I do to become?"
What do you like doing? I think it's very personal.
Personal, because we all know about meditation, yoga, and the standards tools that are now available. They were not that common 10 years ago when I just started learning yoga. I was a freak, but now I feel like I don't know good enough most of the things that I would like to know because I don't have time. But I think it's been supportive, both meditation and yoga. And now I'm doing some really precise exercises, more focused on breathing, which is called pranayama in yoga. That's one of the aspects that I think is the most powerful, that can bring people to a different state right away. If yoga is more of like a long-term aspect of mindfulness, but pranayama is the one that can shift your attention and your mood and your state within minutes. That I think is one of the most common among yogis, and they're not speaking about it that often as you hear about asanas and just physical exercises.
Why do you think it's not talked about as much?
It is complicated and not for everyone.
I see.
There's several books that I would strongly recommend before, practicing, or just finding the right pranayama teacher would be great. And it's not that hard if you find the right guidance, but it's just complicated from the learning perspective. So the good teacher would help.
Hmm. I'm always curious about learning things, especially when people tell me it's difficult. So now I'm gonna have to look that up later.
Sure, I would
Um,
be happy to share some
okay.
more information, maybe later on within the email or with your audience somehow, so you could deliver it to them.
Do you mentioned a few like books that you recommended? Like what are some of the names of them?
Just go to Amazon, type pranayama, and you'll see like 5 books on the top. That's just it.
Okay, sounds good. And you've read. I'm assuming you've read many more than those 5 books.
Pranayama is a part of yoga, so if you're learning yoga, or especially if you're going through a teacher's training, the pranayama aspect will be very much connected to all the different aspects of yoga and meditation as well. Stand alone is a really great exercise to do to shift your state. But overall, I think it needs to be researched from different angles to be able to really manage it in a best way.
So as you're scaling up Moeco with your team, do you find that you do more yoga or like less yoga due to like how you feel throughout your like call a given work week?
That's a great question because I was in and out with yoga while working because sometimes you just cannot find the time. And I remember myself struggling with a lot of work and a lot of stress. And I got myself mentorship from so-called 5G Open Innovation Lab, which we were also part of just a year ago. And I have found another Alexandra. So my full name is Alexandra. Her full name is also Alexandra. And that's how we distinguish each other. I'm Alexa. She's Alexandra. She is one of the managing partners at 5G Open Innovation Lab. And she saw that I was working about 12 hours a day. And she asked me a question like, do you need any guidance or help related to your current work or state? Or she gave me a hint that she kind of knows how to manage that. And I said, yes, I do yoga. I know a lot about it, but I cannot implement it in my routine because it's just, there's no time for that. And she said, try setting up the time slot as a placeholder for yourself and your team and others outside of your organization so they know this is the time blocked for you. And you don't have to do yoga at that time, but that has to be a placeholder for anything out of work that can help you survive through the day. And I have done that. That was the best decision. And I still have this placeholder. And my team knows about it, and my Calendly is capturing it too. So no one is able to set up the meeting with me at that time. So that's some of the life hacks of how to manage that work-life balance throughout when working in startups.
Can you walk me through what a typical day of these call it like 12-hour like work shifts looks like? Because to me, maybe that's not unheard of in the world of startups, but like, I'd love to know how that time is broken down.
Sure. I start later as I now moved from California to Berlin, where most of our team is located. And my co-founder lives here, so it's an important time for me to stay closer and make some important decisions. So my daytime, it's different day when I'm in Europe, of course, because I still work with American clients and my team who's partially located in the US. So I would start later, let's say from 11 a.m. Most likely I will start from 10, but let's say from 10, 11 a.m. And then I would have the calls with my team, mostly with the one that is here in Europe or European time zone, setting up some goals, doing planning, and completing some boring stuff like documents, going through some legal stuff or finance. And then I would shift to the Californian time zone, usually starting at 4 or 5 p.m. local time, talking with clients, sales team, investors, and just, anything related to the different time zone. I usually stop working at around 9, 10 p.m., which is sad. But what cheers me up is that I have a break during the day, usually at 2 or 3 p.m., where I take a walk, do yoga, do something for myself. And that really helps to, go through the day successfully and in a good mood. It's now 7 p.m. on my side, and I'm not sad, you see.
How big's the team currently?
It's 26 people, and most of our team is engineers, software developers, and hardware specialists. And there is just a few people that are working in our sales team right now, including both co-founders. So we're still in the early stage. But we're now hiring more people for the sales team, marketing, PR, everything related to outside relationships, because the product team is very strong, and we will be hiring people there, but the priority is to empower the business team right now.
As you think about RevOps for your company, how do you structure your strategy for I call it on a month-to-month basis or quarterly basis, since you're so early in that scaling phase?
I had to take the course called RevOps Specialist from so-called PandaDoc. That's a company that was just, I believe they have just became public. And I know the founder of this company. This is a great person, and he has set up the educational program to help smaller companies like us to understand what is RevOps and how to manage that, and also encouraging young professionals to go and learn what is RevOps, to become a RevOps professional and work with startups like us and Panda, of course. So I was in batch 1, I believe. You just
That must be fun.
That was very fun, especially that I was combining it with my 12 hours working day. And between you and me and the audience, it was not healthy, because I started...
we have a lot of unhealthy confessions in this show.
So true. But that's life, nothing is perfect here. And I started learning at 1 a.m. until 2, 3 a.m. every day. And at some point, I was just feeling so badly that I have to write an email. Sorry, guys, I have to stop the course, because that's not healthy anymore. And because I have done that, and I was open and honest about actually liking the course, but not having the time for it, they accepted me for the next batch, that I can, get back and take it from where I left it, and pick up all the exercises and get some more knowledge on that. So that was pretty helpful. And I think that's most of our reporting and the way we approach clients these days has been taken from the frameworks that I was given at the RevOps training. Also highly recommended for anyone interested in that.
Do you know if is it one of those classes that's taught synchronously, or is it like a recorded session of videos? Like, how's it structured now?
A year ago it was live, it was not recorded, and a lot of RevOps professionals from PandaDoc were sharing their experience, giving live lectures and answered questions from the audience. But now I believe that should be recorded at that point, because that was just a testing batches that we were participating in. And I believe going to PandaDoc's CEO and just learning from his page in social media, you get more information.
Okay.
Or just typing in RevOps training, or going to my LinkedIn page, because it's there's a link to RevOps training from there.
When you think about being a COO, what are some of the top priorities on your mind throughout, like, either planning or execution periods? Like, what is some of the top problems you're trying to solve today, is another way to put it.
It's always about how to be more profitable for any of the startups, especially that there is a product market fit and you know what you're doing, and you just need to get more clients, increase volumes, and at the end become more profitable. But as this profitability driver becomes a goal setting exercise, because if you set up the goals in numbers, that's just easier to get there, easier to set up the plan how to get there. Let me correct myself here, because it's important. It's not easy to get there. It's never easy. But if we talk about the profits, it doesn't really matter what type of product you do, unless you set up the clear goals in numbers for your company. And for me, it is how do we get there, and the roadmap where everybody in the company, like every member within the team, should be engaged, and that point where their responsibility is still there, but they can also help others and support others together as a result, as one entity. So that's my goal, to understand the profitability aspect, to understand how do we get there and who should do what within the organization to get there more efficiently, let's say faster or higher sometimes.
So when you have this, I guess, this team and allocation in mind, what are some of the philosophies you have in your mind as it comes to, I don't know, like building a team and growing a team?
I'm very sensitive about the team and people that are stepping into the team. I would personally talk to all of the candidates who would apply, to understand that this is a good fit for our company's culture, and for this person to make sure that they can not only complement what we're doing by just doing their work, but also to be able to set their own goals and get there. And we, Moeco, as an organization, can help them to get there for our own, for the benefit of all. So it's a very sensitive, psychological, and hands-on, like practical process of hiring people in our company specifically, because it's always like I spend 12 hours at work. It means I spend most of my life with these people. So I definitely need to be very picky in a way of how to make it work. So everyone's happy. So everyone is working as one organism and complementing each other and helping and supporting each other to get to the final goal of the organization and be able to also express themselves and also to get to their own goals that should be aligned. That's very important.
Earlier, you were mentioning a culture fit. What would you say is the culture of Moeco?
We do have a culture code, and that's been changed dramatically throughout our path. And as I thought that's so obvious, like just be good at work and show up and just do the work. That's like easy, right? But then when it comes to growing the team, there's a lot of shared values that we have discovered and that we have talked through at our monthly meetings. I believe that's been changed, I think, 1.5 year and updated when the new members come in. And I see that there's something that is important to them. I would just update it in our culture code and just talk through that again with the whole team, so they would be aware this is what is important for us right now. And if there's any comments or anything that's I've missed, I'm very open to hear more from our team and always improve it. I believe there is no limits of perfection there.
So when you have, how many revisions have you gone through thus far, and what is the shared values as of today?
As of today, we have to update it, to be very honest, because the recent 2 team members that have joined the team have been really proactive and doing a lot of things that's helped the company, and I believe that's revealed their superpowers, and they brought in some of the aspects of collaboration that's we could improve from our side as a team to be able to meet their values and on higher standards. And that's always about like collaboration in the best possible manner, but having this ownership of what you do. And this whole several things, like up to 10 things we now have, are talking about the same thing from different angles. About how to leave the ownership of what you do and be fully responsible for your area of work, but also how to be collaborative and support other team members in what they do. Because in startups, it's really important. That's always a balance.
So what would you say is the core traits that you cling to personally? Like, what are your core motivating factors? What are your core principles of character that you personally live by, that you bring to the team?
That's a very deep question. I have to take a moment about that. I think working with these people 12 hours a day makes me feel great, just because I know how intelligent they are, as well as how they bring their expertise in a humble and a very professional manner. And for me, I would really like to deliver the product to our clients, because I truly believe that could change the way people think of supply chain right now. And if we're sending the package to anywhere and we just come to DHL, they give us some kind of receipt that we have to type in and see the tracking number. And the very important moment is when the package has reached the destination. And that's what we're all used to. I believe very soon in the future, the very simple stickers will be attached to the box, and you would not understand everything in real time. You don't have to rely on any DHLs of the world. or DHL will provide you like more transparency of not only where it is, but what is happening with your good. Is there any, um, you know, issues throughout the whole supply chain and delivery? And of course, I'm just bringing it down to earth and talking about the end users, but imagine these huge volumes of products that each company is sending out throughout globally throughout the world. And they have to rely on different logistics, transportation companies, distributors, in order to understand the success of the delivery to the end user. And I believe that should be disrupted, and the transparency should be there in terms of the conditions of the transportation, and a lot of things can be improved within the human involvement in this process, because a lot of times people have to do the manual quality check. They have to type in the reference number somewhere, but it should be so easy as easy peasy, just to open your smartphone and see where are your goods, what's going on with them, and if there are any disruptions, just to be able to correct everything in real time and not wait for the feedback from the end customer that something is wrong and resend it or do something else. That should be controlled within a fingertips, within a smartphone or web page that would show it all. So I really want my value at the end of the day is just to be able within our products to improve people's lives and to provide them a digital tool of their supply chain management. And because I want that so much, I'm really trying to work with our team to make it happen.
I'd love to see a future where supply chains are a lot more transparent, like consumers can track things at a more granular level. I think especially with COVID, with a lot of things being shifted, even this, I think this more recent scenario of Southwest having to cancel a lot of their flights, it's just a pain for anyone involved. I get they're people and not necessarily stuff, but I imagine the same principles apply all the time where there's cancellations, there's delays, and information just helps people just feel at least more at ease that things are at least working partially as opposed to not working at all.
So true. And believe it or not, COVID just accelerated our growth. We had a lot of clients that have asked about our solution when the COVID pandemic started. So at one hand, it's really sad, and I had a lot of personal issues because of the COVID, and I had to, change my life completely. But on the other hand, we got success due to COVID specifically because the supply chain was so much disrupted and still is, that people started to look for the new solutions in there. And I believe that's we can and we will definitely change things in the industry, and I'm very much excited about it.
I think there's a lot of obvious terrors that relate to COVID, but at the same time, I feel like there's also, it reveals inefficiencies in the world that I look forward to seeing how startups disrupt. And I think it's only startups that can disrupt because a lot of these larger enterprise companies have too many. I think at some point the organizations get too bloated that to start spawn up a new product and push out to the market as fast as possible is more difficult for larger companies than smaller ones.
That's true. And you know what? Think about the hospitality aspect or logistics and supply aspect. That will never be the same again.
Yeah.
And I'm very much happy that people had to change things in order to improve it. And that's the only way to go in a lot of cases, but in this one, that's so obvious.
So the last question I want to ask you before our time is up is, what would you say is the hardest thing you've ever had to do at Moeco?
There were a lot of hard things, so let me choose one.
Hardest things, if there's a few ties.
Yeah, that's so true. I think fundraising is a tough time, and this is the time where you not only prove what you do to yourself, your team, your co-founder, your clients, but you have to go out there and prove it for the world, and to be able to find the right words, and find the time, besides building the products, talking to your clients, but also to set up the time to talk to investors. That was very hard. And one of the most insightful times for me to get the feedback from those who are out of this problem at all, but they can look at this problem from a different angle. Also very valuable insights, as well as from those who are working in the industry and they know how to do it better than you. And you have to prove them that you will be there very soon, and that you're really open and honest and ready to work, even though you're already exhausted.
That does sound incredibly difficult.
Oh, it is.
How long was that period?
We started our fundraising campaign last summer. We have closed 2 million for early stage, but now we're doing another round, which is called late seed or pre-Series A. So answering your question, that will never end, because later on we'll do Series A, Series B, and where it goes. But I think that every time, every stage of investments give you more and better contacts in terms of people and interaction with them. At the end of the day, brings you to new clients, to new insights, and that is the process I believe all the startups are going through.
Well, thank you very much for your time. I just love learning about different industries, and I think IoT is an underrepresented one on this podcast. So I love just hearing about the insights behind all the challenges, all the joys, all the just all the industry specific stuff. Before we close out our show, for the people and the guests who might be interested in following you personally or following your company's journey along, what's the best way for them to do so?
Yeah, so Moeco is easy to find in social media, and myself, Alexa Sinyachova. I am trying to share more about what goes outside of work in my social media, but I also share some of the biggest news and industry news with my followers. And I would be happy to talk to anyone willing to work with us, especially in the business team, or who's very excited about changing the supply chain industry, dramatically disrupting it with the new technologies like us. I would be eager to talk. And my email is alexa@moeco.io. And I'm always ready to talk to anyone who is open for that.
Sounds good. Well, thanks again for your time.
Thank you so much. It was a great conversation. I was enjoying it as well.